about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Never lose sight of the magic of this football team.
Yeah! Here we go!
I'm all in.
And if you're here, you're in the right place. Welcome to Cowboys Gameplan. Welcome back to another episode of here on the live stream. I'm Slater. That's Mike. As always, y'all should already know this, but today we kind of just wanted to sit down and talk to y'all about some free agency talk, right? You know, Mr. Jerry Jones, the man himself, Stephen Jones, right behind him, Brian Schottenheimer and Christian Parker have been busy this past week trying to bring in some reinforcements to help this Dallas Cowboys team. Definitely seen some key moves happen this week, and we definitely have seen maybe a division of what Christian Parker is looking to do on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, just to kind of start off the moves, right? We talked about Javonte Williams already, right? Got him back on a 3-year deal. We got Jalen Thompson on the 3-year contract. You know, that's a really big signing for the secondary core right there, especially, you know, when there was a lot of questions there, right? Are we going to keep Malik Hooker? Are we going to, you know, keep Donovan Wilson? Are we going to let him go? Stuff like that. PJ Locke from Denver, you know, 1-year deal. It's some great depth that they got there. Kobe Durant, which was signed, I think, early this morning. He signed a 1-year deal. He was really huge in the playoffs this past year. I think he had 3 interceptions in one game. I think it was that Chicago Bears game, if I'm not mistaken. And then they brought in some defensive tackle depth, which we'll kind of get into, right? Because we saw a bunch of defensive linemen being brought in this past week. And then it turns out that, you know, it led to something, right? Osa Odigizua getting traded for a third-round pick to the 49ers. And then the Cowboys bring in Sam Howell, too. You know, that's an interesting signing, you know, I guess competing for a backup role. But I find it really hard if Sam Howell ended up being our backup over Joe Milton still. Outside of that, we also brought back Sam Williams. You know, he's our new the edge that we've already had on a 1-year deal. Obviously, maybe something that Christian Parker and them saw that they want to try something different, maybe something to suit him better. But outside of that, the only trade accusation, or I guess our biggest free agency move, right, after Max Crosby falling apart, which, you know, we'll get into here too, was Rashawn Gary being traded to the Dallas Cowboys from the Packers. So, Mike, I mean, you know, let's do this. Give me an overall feeling for the week, and then we'll kind of go player by player and break it down. Hey, hold up real quick. Maybe Mike got unplugged. I can see you talking, but I'm not hearing nothing. Oh, there you are. Say something.
Is that it?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, it looks like somebody changed something over here, so didn't know to switch it back. You got me coming through though?
Yeah, you're good. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you.
So yeah, no, you're good. Just looking over the whole week, I think they did a good thing. They're doing good things. You can tell it's pretty deliberate in what their intention is and what they're trying to accomplish. They have a plan. I'm assuming they're not done. But as everybody knows, the two things that we're still really stressed about and really concerned about is, you know, our defensive ends and linebackers. But considering we came into free agency and the draft concerned about starters and depth in every position group, I think we've come along pretty well. Obviously, it was rough to miss out on, you know, both Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. You know, they were involved, they made their effort, they shot their shot, and they were outdone. And it's disappointing, of course, but that's just the way the NFL works. But despite that, they've managed to really bring good players to the roster, and we got some pretty good deals, So I'm really happy about it. We kept a couple guys around that we're familiar with. They brought Sam Williams back, but we're trading out Osa and Solomon Thomas, and I believe we've lost, Wanye and one receiver, Jalen Tolbert.
Mm-hmm.
We also lost, so, but that's just typical stuff. So I feel good about the week. I think it's pretty clear what they're trying to do in the draft. At this point, they're trying to put themselves in a position where they can take the best talent available without having to reach or settle for something that's not going to fit the team dynamic. My personal feeling is they're actually going to try to trade up.
Yeah, and
trade down in theory. When I say trading up, I mean trading, up to draft sooner rather than later. So I think they're going to try to go from 12 into the top 8.
Yeah, and that would be definitely huge for Dallas. I think when you're talking about what the draft's coming up, especially with the lack of maybe a linebacker signing that we've seen, maybe they do need to reach up and go get a Sonny Styles or, someone better than CJ Allen. I'm not a huge hater on him, but I think if you're at pick 12 and CJ Allen's the guy there, he's more of someone I'm looking at from maybe like pick 20, right, rather than that 12. But I think maybe you can package, those 2 first rounders and maybe push up into that top 8 if you really want it, or you package that first, a third, and a player, right?
Right.
I think there was a lot of things that I think we expected, and I did too, honestly, when they started talking about bust a budget and really talking about bringing in guys like Max Crosby and talking about guys like Chris Johnson in our chat here saying, Josh Sweat out there, guys like that. I expected more maybe splash moves, but I have to understand that maybe Christian Parker has a different vision than what we're looking to do, right? Instead of bringing in just a bunch of big names, he's looking for guys who actually fit his scheme and actually are going to play in his scheme very well. And so that's what I kind of look forward to. I think that's kind of more now as I shift towards like, why did we get these guys? Why did we go get Jalen Thompson? Why did we go get Gary? Why did we go get PJ Locke? I'll be excited during training camp and during the regular season of seeing how these guys fit in and how they play well together.
Yeah, everybody that we've brought in, especially with the secondary, they're all very versatile guys. Jalen Thompson is a do-it-all safety. He can play both positions. He can play, down in the box, and he can play over the top, and he does it all pretty well. PJ Locke is good. He was good in Texas, and we added some depth there with Kobe, who is another guy who I think we got pretty easy and pretty inexpensive. That's really talented. So our secondary, if the guys that we have on the team already take a step forward this year, our secondary is already immensely better than it was in the prior couple of years, because everybody that's going to be in their position now is a starter quality, a starter talent for their position. We're not asking a guy who's, an undrafted free agent with 4 years of experience from the bench to come in and play at a high caliber. So we've remedied all of that in the secondary, and now we just need to get some help and depth in the linebacker. Now, you said you wanted to talk player for player, so let's talk about Rashawn Gary. I know it's questionable. It's not Max Crosby. It's not Trey Hendrickson, but I think the guy's got talent. I really do. And I trust the program in Green Bay. And from everything that we've dealt with Green Bay, if we're looking at Kenny Clark coming here, I know that we're going to get a guy who's going to do his job, and how much success he has is yet to be seen. But I trust the caliber of player that we're getting. And for whatever reason, he didn't hit 10 sacks last year. There's many reasons why. There was other talent on the team that could have taken away from that a little bit. But I know for what we're looking for with the way Christian Parker wants to run this 3-4 defense, he's going to be a fit for it, because he's a good run stopper, and he can also, cause trauma on the line and get after, quarterbacks when he needs to. So he's one of those guys that can kind of do it all, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, so for Rashawn Gary, right? Obviously, the Max Crosby trade falls apart, before it even got canceled, right, by the Ravens. Dallas offered a first and a second round pick, which I first off, put it out there. I thought that was a really good, strong offer for it. I definitely would not want to give up my 2 first round picks for it. So I'm happy that Dallas at least held their ground on where they were at. Obviously, it didn't work out, which, it's still interesting. Like, if you knew he had surgery this offseason and you knew that there was a chance of him failing his physical, why'd you trade for him? But maybe they thought something different. But outside that, talking about Gary, it seemed like Dallas, pivot and went to him and got him. And, this was a guy who has been really a monster for Green Bay before, they got kind of a turnover with like Micah Parsons coming in the building. And, it seemed like they had more of a rotation instead of him being like an every down starter like he was in years past, where he had the high double-digit sacks and stuff like that. Obviously, when we're talking about Christian Parker's scheme and everything like that, he's going to have that versatility, right? He's going to be, whether he can be a stand-up defensive end or a guy who can put his hand in the dirt. I think I've seen film of him doing both. He's someone that Christian Parker could probably drop into coverage into, maybe a middle zone. I'm going to say middle zone. It's not the right terminology, but I'm going to say middle zone, or into like a quick flats, right? And obviously his veteran presence too will be very good for a guy who may be used to this kind of scheme to help out guys like a Sam Williams, a Davin Ezeraku, a Leafau, because that's the interesting thing is, we're going to get these veteran guys or maybe even younger guys, but they're so used to being in maybe a scheme similar to Christian Parker that they may become, our starters, of course, but veteran leaders in how to teach the scheme to the guys who have never played it before. Think about how much turnover they had in the defensive coordinator in the past 3 years, and the guys who have had to change this or change their mindset for the scheme every year. And Leafau is one of them. We talked about it last time we were live that we think that Leafau is going to freaking get a huge opportunity off of this new scheme and everything, because he's going to be more of playing natural than just trying to diagnose, read, and drop back or run forward or go left, go right, and be in exactly perfect spot for it to work. He can just headhunt. So I think we're going to see a lot of, like you said, right? He's going to be really good and strong in the run defense, which obviously Dallas has put a lot of assets into, right? Kenny Clark, Quentin Williams, and now Gary. And then I think we're going to see some of his pass rush ability come back. I know people are, kind of clowning it because he had a down year, and it's like, well, you trade Micah Parsons and now you don't have, any pass rush at all, but you're trying to get pass rushers back. And I'm thinking that if we can get,
and you also have Quay Walker and some other talent on that defensive line that kind of took some of the stats away from him. The Green Bay Packers are currently, the roster is not built to have one single, 10, 12 sack, defensive end or linebacker on the team. That they've made it so, and that's where all defenses are headed, is where you never know where the threat is really going to be coming from, and that's what they're trying to do with Rashawn Gary. He's going to seal off that weak side and apply pressure at the same time, so we can create 3-4 mismatches with the backfield and what's coming out of it, and slowing down that production so that the quarterback is pressured while he's focusing on having to throw it down the field, because we've eliminated their ability to move the ball in short game. That's the idea behind Rashawn Gary, because he can do all of those things without losing, one ability or the other by only being a high pressure guy, right?
Yeah. And that's where I see the benefit too. I was just thinking of it, but like what I'm hoping for our defensive line as an overall goal this year, instead of in years past where it's been Micah Parsons, we need to find a way to get you to the quarterback. I'm hoping that we can work together as a whole unit to get to the quarterback, instead of saying, we're going to place guys out of the way, or we're going to let Micah Parsons go wherever he feels like, hover over the center or whatever. He's a great talent. I agree. But I think your defensive scheme or your defensive talent ends up working better when you don't know who is going to stunt, or when you don't know
Right.
who is going to be the one kind of being the focus on how getting them to the quarterback instead of just knowing which star players there. If that makes sense, I'm kind of jambling.
It makes total sense. I think we're on the same page because the way me and you see the team dynamic building, with Azaraku and Gary and Overshone and Luafau, these are all young guys who are heat-seeking missiles, and they can be fired from any position that they're at on the field at any time, and they can all close the gap really, really quick. So, one guy's been pressuring you for an entire drive or an entire quarter, and you adjust to him, and the next thing you know, there's a whole new guy coming, down to crash and grab you, and you just didn't plan for that many pass rushers to have an effective day. I think that's the mission here, and with the guys that we got and the talent that those particular guys have, I think they can accomplish it. But we definitely need to solve the linebacker issue because the nose tackle and the two defensive tackles that we have in Kenny Clark and Quentin Williams, they're going to make it difficult offensive linemen. I mean, some of those, at least two of those guys are going to require double teams almost every play.
Yeah.
Quentin Williams is a nightmare on his own. And when he's causing issues on your line, and then you've got Rashawn Gary who can hold his own over there too, they're going to run out of big on big really, really fast. And that's going to leave a lot of opportunities for our hot rods to come crashing down into the backfield.
Yeah, and talking about the linebacker position, that's what G-Dog's saying, right? Like we need a vet linebacker before we get to the draft, and I can agree with that. I think there's so great guys out there. I think if you could rent a Bobby Wagner for a year, a Matt Maleo, kind of some of these veteran guys, and then you draft a young stud to kind of sit behind them for, let's say, the first 4 weeks, and then you transition and you flip them, I think that's an absolute win. Now, to get to what you were talking about for the defensive line, like that's what led to Osa getting traded. I'm not going to dive too deep into it just because we'll probably hit it here in a minute again. But this scheme, we're going to need bigger defensive tackles, right? Guys who can take double teams. Not, this isn't a Dan Quinn scheme or anything like that where we're trying to get smalls and guys who can just swim on by. We need Quentin Williams to take on double blocks. We need Kenny Clark to take on double blocks because that's what's going to get Gary one-on-ones, Azaraku one-on-ones, Leofau one-on-ones, and help our linebackers in the middle get through holes better if it's, the run game, or drop back and be able to, decipher better the pass game. So, but looking at.
So let me ask you this: we missed out on Max Crosby. It looked like the going price before the whole withdrawal incident was 2 first-round picks. If we had traded 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby and we had gotten him 29 years old, coming off a significant surgery and injury, would you honestly be happy with that? If getting him caused us to get less players than we have right now? So I guess my total question is are you happier with what we have, or would you have been happier with Max Crosby?
That's
with hindsight being completely in play here, because we know what the situation is. We've seen, the medical issue that arose. All things considered, what's your opinion on that?
I think knowing what I know now, I'm a little iffy on Max Crosby, but at the same time, I assumed that he was going to be ready for training camp in the season. That's what I'm going to go off the assumption of. It is tough to turn down a Max Crosby. I know, even though with the surgery, that's almost a Micah Parsons level kind of talent to put on your defensive line, a game wrecker. But I feel like we had that with Quentin Williams. The question will be is how do you get Quentin Williams more opportunities to kind of make that happen? Maybe we need, guys like Gary and Kenny Clark to kind of help get his game going instead of trying to stack all this defensive line talent into like 2 guys, right? And that goes back to what I was saying earlier is like, I want my defensive line unit to work as a unit to help each other instead of well, Max Crosby, we're going to put you on the less favorable offensive lineman every time, so then you get the benefit of them, but teams are going to scheme against that. Like when you see Michael Parsons moving around, what did teams start to do? They started to run away from him. And I feel the same thing happened with a Max Crosby. We're going to run away from him. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means you're a great talent, and understandably so, you're a game wrecker. But for what I feel that this defense needs to be, they need to be depth strong. They need to be a unit that will work together, understand the scheme, and be selfless. I'm not looking for players that are trying to like build their stats, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. My take on this is like this. With knowing everything we know, we've seen how this has played out now. We've got a handful of first-round picks. We did that deliberately. At some point, we're going to have to rebuild this team from the ground up with our draft picks. It's not right now. We're in a window where we've got 3 years at best. We'll call it 2, realistically. But we've got a 3-year window where we can have great success and potentially be in the playoffs with this team. Max Crosby is an all-time talent. I'm going to assume that being ready for training camp or not, he is not going to immediately be the Max Crosby of week 12 through week 14 he was last year. I just don't see that happening. So we're trading 2 first-round picks, our future, for a guy who we don't know if he's going to be the Max Crosby we've known him to be immediately. He will be eventually. He's 29 years old. So we're looking at 30, 31 before he's back to the Max Crosby of old. And we've traded our future away for it. And if we were to get Max Crosby and we ended up with Max Crosby and, let's say, Tyra Sweet, Matt Hennessy, and Kobe Durant, and we didn't get any of these other signings because of paying Max, I think we're worse off at that point, or we're in a bigger hole to try to recover from between free agency and the draft. So ultimately, I think we would have paid a higher price to not be as balanced, and we would have been a more needy team approaching the draft and free agency now had that gone through. So I almost feel like it's a relief. I don't know what happened with Trey Hendrickson. I guess just because we committed to Rashawn Gary that they didn't even want to play on that field, and that's what happened. But that's my logic behind being totally okay with losing out inevitably on the Max Crosby sweepstakes. And I think we're in a better position for it. And it really feels like we have still have some opportunities that we can take advantage of despite that. And we're still going to, be working towards having a complete team because we're not real far off at this point. We're in a good shot because, we've got talent on the team. We got Shamar James still sitting back there at linebacker. He's talented. He's going to develop. Not at all what we need right now. We need a very reliable, veteran, talented linebacker to come in and help keep our linebacking group solid. But, we're not 2 linebackers, a cornerback, and 2 safeties away like we were previously.
Yeah, the Trey Hendrickson thing, I think the Ravens, they pivoted so fast. And, in my opinion, they overpaid. In my opinion, was it 4 years, 112 mil? That's a lot of money going to a guy that's kind of in a similar situation as a Max Crosby, right? Aging, coming off an injury. And even with how he was not playing games this year too, right? Because there was a big swirl about him not playing, right, and trading him and everything like that, and him sitting out. So, it's one of these things where I think we were in a better situation than we could have been with Max Crosby. The Max Crosby move, again, was what I was expecting at first. Splashes, right? Bust the budget. The words that Jerry was using was leading us down this path to where we were going to go all in, which we still could, right? But it seemed like after that fell apart, Christian Parker and the defensive staff, they got together and they told Jerry, look, if we're going to make this scheme work, we need this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And then the guys that are, like getting traded now or could still be traded or not even back re-signed on the team, they don't fit in the scheme. Christian Parker wants guys in the building who are going to get his scheme down and who fit within it, right? So I'm repeating myself here a lot, but that's why Osa got traded, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. But I believe in what you're saying. We are in a better situation than I think we would have been with Max Crosby.
Yeah, we busted the budget. If the budget is a pane of glass, we busted it with BBs instead of a sledgehammer.
Yeah,
that's kind of the way I see it. We're still getting to where we needed to go. I mean, I can't remember the last time that we had this many moves in free agency. It wasn't all just in one or two guys. It's in 8 guys, and that's a big deal. Yeah. And I don't think they're done. They cleared some of the guys out that aren't. It's not because they're not good players. I mean, Solomon Thomas, Sosa Diggy, they're both fantastic players, and they were good for our team. They're starter guys. But they just do not fit the scheme. 6'2", 260 is not going to close off an entire gap being double teamed. That's an aggressive upfield swim move, find the running back, quarterback kind of guy. And we need people who are going to clog up the lanes completely so our guys can shoot through or shoot around. And it just makes sense. So ultimately, I feel more secure with the entire team than I would have felt with just knowing that we had an elite pass rusher, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm just glad that I don't know what it is with Jerry this offseason, but I'm just glad that between Schottenheimer, Christian Parker, they've been able to kind of run. I feel like it's more of a coach-ran offseason than it is an owner-ran offseason. And, maybe if you get that kind of vibe too, but we have made some really good moves that I think put us in a better position to support the high-powered offense we have. And that's all I've been looking for in this offseason. So
does signing George Pickens this season or before, the season starts, does that count as busting the budget?
No. What do you think?
Okay.
When I think bust the budget, or when I think someone comes out there and says bust the budget, you're looking at getting guys outside of your normal range or guys that aren't on your team currently. I think you could consider it with George Pickens, but I don't consider it when in the context that they were using it in. So
yeah, I mean, I do just because he's technically a Dallas Cowboy, but he's kind of not at the same time. So it's like signing him to a long-term deal and getting all these players that we have. I mean, that's essentially busting the budget. It's still a big signing. It accomplishes the same purpose. But I have another question for you. Out of all these players that we've acquired in the free agency, which one is your favorite and which one has you the most excited to see play in a Cowboys uniform?
Dude, Jalen Thompson. Honestly, I'm excited to see a young safety actually come into the building and actually provide a spark for what we've been really weak in over the past couple of years. I think Jalen Thompson has the ability to, blitz really well. I think he can do what Donovan Wilson was doing, except for he has pass coverage ability on top of that. Dono was a more run stuffing in the box kind of guy, and I think this guy can do it all and be able to be an over-the-top safety to where I can trust him behind a Shavon Revel or I can trust him behind, Kobe. And I'm super excited for him. I think he's a great signing. I'm glad Dallas was able to find the ability to get him under a 3-year deal because I think you're going to see over the next 3 years, if Christian Parker stays and everything like that, his value is going to be tremendous after this contract is done.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'm excited about him and Kobe the most, just because our secondary was atrocious last year. It'd be nice to see capable players in there. doing their job, and just seeing how much of a difference that alone makes for our defense. Sure, I'm excited for Rashawn Gary and what that's going to do and all that stuff, but I think ultimately it's the secondary that's going to make the biggest difference visually and optically watching the games. It may not make the biggest impact of the winning or losing, but it's definitely going to be the personnel group that sees the most growth this year. So, yeah, I agree with you. The Jalen Thompson signing definitely outweighs the Rashawn Gary one in my mind.
I'm excited for Kobe because I want to see what he can do in the nickel. Doing some basic research on him. I haven't gotten too deep into it today because we saw him this morning. I heard that he's a really good slot corner, and when he was playing slot corner, he was actually rated one of the best ones during that time or during that year, and I think it may have been 2023 or something like that. But I like that they got depth too. Like after they got Jalen Thompson, they didn't just stop there. They let Wanye Thomas go, who got signed today, right? And they go get PJ Locke. Like it's awesome to see because I've seen the great pass rush, right? Like I've seen this team have the greatest pass rush ever. And during the regular season, we're smoking, Mac Jones, and we're, smoking them packs the whole time, getting 2 or 3 sacks a game. And then, your secondary benefits off that. Deron Bland's the pick 6 king, and Trayvon Diggs gets this huge deal because all he does is intercept people, and he gets 12 or 13. But to be able to have a secondary that could buy an extra 1 to 2 seconds for your pass rush is better to me than your pass rush buying your secondary 1 to 2 seconds or making the play in 1 to 2 seconds earlier for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. How do you feel about the Sam Howell, just for fun? I mean, I don't know what it is, but I mean, is there anything you feel about Sam Howell, or do you just feel like they were bringing in a train? They let Will Greer go, so is it just a train camp kind of deal here?
Yeah, it's definitely. I love Will Greer, dude. It's an upgrade. I don't know if this is with the intention of him being the backup. I would assume it is. I think it's more to help push Joe Milton a little bit. They're obviously not super secure with Milton being back there, and they're just trying to be smart to get someone who has a little more experience to back up Dak if something were to happen. I'm not sure it's going to make much difference, but until we see some more out of Bazooka Joe, I mean, I like the signing. It is what it is. I mean, I'm lukewarm on it, I guess, is my answer.
Let me give you a little like plot twist to this, okay? Obviously, he was an Eagle this past year, right?
Yeah.
Your defensive coordinator was a former Philly, comes to the team, and then you sign a backup quarterback who would know the play. Not saying this is a benefit for Christian Parker, but is this a benefit for Christian Parker in the way that Sam Howell knows how to attack a 3-4? He's seen Christian Parker's defense, and so during training camp and all that, he's going to be the guy going against it, knowing how to find the weakness, and that's what Christian Parker wants is a guy who knows his scheme.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely gives us some insight. A guy who knows how to run the Eagles offense versus a coach who knows how to defend it. It definitely seems like it's hyper-focused on our biggest rival. But at the same time, if you listen to pundits and former players who do podcasts and everything, they say the backups don't really get much opportunity to run the offense. So in that light, does it really matter? I don't know. I think it does. I think the knowledge of the quarterback is always game prepared, whether they actually have the physical preparation or not. They know the playbook. They know what's supposed to be executed by which position on the field. So having someone who can emulate what you're trying to deliver for practice is definitely a plus for the coaching staff for the Cowboys. So in that light, yeah, it does seem pretty stacked. Hopefully it works out. But, yeah, what do you think about Hal?
I mean, honestly, I don't think he's better than Joe Milton. Maybe, the way that he can be a game manager may be better right now. But Joe Milton is, raw talent that's just slowly being harnessed, right? Like he is somebody that that we would look. If Dak Prescott got hurt, knock on wood, and pray and all the rain dances I got to do to prevent that this whole next year. I'd rather see Joe Milton than Sam Howell. I don't want to see Sam Howell marching out there. So, but I think it's cool that they signed him. If it is in the case that I was thinking of, where it's like, hey, Sam Howell, like you practiced against my defense all last year. We're gonna bring you in for training camp. You're gonna be able to help me attack, teach these guys. And when you pick it apart the first couple of weeks, I'm gonna be able to get on these guys and chew them out because you are exposing the basic weaknesses, right? And then we get into deeper levels of it, something like that. That's what I thought it was for.
So, no, I agree. I would rather see Joe Milton too. I just think he's more raw, like you said, he's raw talent, and he can do a lot more physically with the ball. He just needs to kind of be controlled and harnessed a little bit and get into a rhythm. But I think on Sam Howell's best day versus Joe Milton's best day, Joe Milton's better.
Yeah.
So out of all the signings, which ones? And we can't re-elect Sam because we just pretty much destroyed him. But taking Sam out of the picture, which signings are the most meh to you?
The defensive tackle, what's his name? Tito.
Agbanya?
Yeah,
Tito Agbanya?
Yeah, Tito. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot about those tackles anymore, man, but they're crucial to the 3-4.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big body, and I think he's just going to serve as a great backup to, Quentin Williams and Kenny Clark. So he's like a goal line package guy, red zone kind of guy, or, 4th and 1, tush push kind of guy, So I like
this is a
signing.
versatility thing.
But this is
so that you can put him over the center and basically guard two gaps with him at the same time. That's the whole purpose of him. And it'll definitely be a rotational. He's not going to be out there every down. He's just going to be out there to change up a little bit and to deliver some different looks to confuse the defense and basically take up 3 spaces on the field. And that's going to be nice because he's a big Tyrus Wheat's the one that I see is kind of like, what?
Yeah. I mean, for me, he reminds me of like Vince Wilfork. You're just gonna throw him out there when you need a big boy, and you just need him. Hey, I need you to hold your 2 feet and don't let them push you back.
Yeah.
So I mean,
deal with this guy.
I think
how about that?
Yeah, I think everyone else that they've signed has been really exciting. It's all secondary. It's it's pass rush. It's things that we're looking for. We're just missing the veteran linebacker. And I know for probably our viewers out there listening, we're beating a dead horse and going in circles, but we need some kind of linebacker help. And I think they're aiming to do it in the draft. They may go get a veteran, but I think they're really bought in on getting their guy in the draft, whether it's like you said at the beginning of this episode, which is trading up, or they get lucky and someone falls.
Yeah, looks like the plan to me. I just don't see the kind of linebacker that we need available out there without a trade.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to trade, you might as well trade in the draft or, I would much rather trade, me, I always like known quantities who have played and we know what we're going to get for them. And so I'd much rather trade before the draft and then make the best move for us during the draft. But I think they're kind of setting themselves up to have either option. If somebody comes up interest, we can make a move before the draft. And then if not, we can make a move in the draft to get what we need at linebacker. But we still need a veteran linebacker to help facilitate the transition.
Yeah, I agree. I would treat the linebacker.
Here, I've got a massive delay on my end. So I'm not hearing what you're saying a lot. So I apologize if it just seems like there's interference. That's why.
No, you're good. Who knows? It's Friday night. Maybe Iran's taking over the internet. I don't know. But yeah. Outside of that, man, the only other move that Dallas made that if you want to give your thoughts on was the Oso Digizua getting traded for a 3rd-round pick. There was a lot of Cowboys fans, at least on my Twitter feed, who are upset that we got paid too little or not enough. It's like the Niners fleeced us. Do you feel that the Niners fleeced us, or do you think we got fair value with a third-round pick?
No, I mean, we got a third-round pick for, a guy who, he was a fan favorite.
Yeah.
He was big for the locker room. He was a big Milan supporter. He made a name for himself. He was a team guy. But what do you remember him for out there beside Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams? What did he do that makes him so valuable other than the time and camaraderie that he's delivered for the team? I think at the end of the day, you combine that with our need going forward. I think we were well compensated. I think a third is very fair.
Yeah, and that opens up a door that you and I can go down. But as we get closer to the draft, now we can look at guys in the third round that could potentially fall to Dallas, and this could be where we get a key piece of depth or something like that to really help out the defense. So, outside that, man, do you have anything else? Whether it's Dallas Cowboy related.
No, I think that covers everything for me that I was ready to talk about.
Awesome. Y'all, I'm sorry for the lack of content lately. Again, Mike and I are both full-time employees. We're making this thing work, and we appreciate y'all's support. We appreciate y'all's comments on the shorts, videos, likes, everything like that. As we get closer to the season again, man, we'll get back in that good rotation where we're posting, 2 times a week, pregame, postgame, and then hopefully we get some more content out there for y'all. But outside that, man, we always appreciate y'all. We're on the road to 400 subscribers. So if you haven't already yet, if you're here listening still, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate talking to y'all. And if y'all ever have any questions for us, we hit us up on one of our post comments on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. And outside that, if you're here, you're in the right place. This is Cowboys Gameplan.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Never lose sight of the magic of this football team.
Yeah! Here we go!
I'm all in.